Okay, so we're leaving the face for a moment and we're going on to the ears. Now that I'm looking at these with a fresh eye, I want to darken that top left section. So I'm using a nice rich wash of raw umber here. I think I've got a little bit of yellow ochre in here as well. Very watery, and I'm sort of glazing over the layer that's already there. So I'm warming the whole thing up. I don't want to disturb the pink and blue, that lovely merging that we've already done. So I'm just going around and sort of smudging a little bit, but trying not to let it run into that white section because I don't want to undo that. I want that little bit of light there. And I'm just going over and deepening that blue area at the bottom. And then I'm going to darken, really darken right up the top. So I'm going in with very, very dark Payne's grey over the wet area, because I'm then going to achieve a nice blended look. I don't want it to be too stark. I want it to look quite sort of nicely blended and merged up there. And you can also do this if you want to take away any harsh lines. If you feel your lines were just a bit too stark, you can go in and just blend over it with some wet paint and water it down a bit. Let it dry and then redo it. Or leave it as I have if you want to just get that nice sort of soft blended look. So I'm working at the base of the ear. Not got much paint on my brush. I think I'm just using a very, very watery mix. I'm just sort of getting the feel for my brush strokes. Yeah, and that now I've added more paint to my brush. And I'm going in when I feel comfortable with the flicks again. So we're building up on the forehead layering. It's easy to do too much. It depends what look you're going for. If you want a really realistic look, you can take your time with lots and lots of layers and really build up that fine detail, almost like what coloured pencil artists do. It's up to you if you want to do that. I like to create depth and colour by building up some tones, but allowing them to sort of merge a little bit with a bit of wet in wet, and then other areas that on the edges near the eyes are a bit more defined, and you just have a few little brush strokes that suggest the fur. And I find that's more interesting, especially as they come away from the side of the face, like this bit here, just above the eye. I'm just doing a little bit of sort of suggestion of where the fur is. Just a few little flicks, and I won't do much more than that in that area. And then as you move into the forehead, it's deeper, thicker fur there. It makes it more interesting. I'm just mixing up some more paint here. Or I'm pausing. If I pause, then it means I'm really thinking about something. Yeah, I'm about to start doing the eyes. So you'll always see me sort of hover and pause if I'm sort of holding my breath and about to go for it. So this bit here, I'm just, why I was pausing is I was observing where that white strip is. It's coming down from the top of the eye. I'm wanting to create the shadow to the left of it and underneath the eye. And it's quite important that you get this right because it's quite a focal piece. So I'm using, again, it's not really watery, but I've got enough that I can use. I can make quite a few brush strokes before the paint runs out. And again, remember when you load your paint up, go in with the deeper, darkest areas first, because you're going to lose your paint there. And then as you move away, it's getting lighter and fluffier, and you come towards like the mouth where it is lighter and, you know, not so much depth. So always start with your darkest areas because it's very forgiving. If you've got a bit too much paint on your brush, it doesn't matter if you go into a really dark area, you get away with it. So again, I'm kind of using my own sort of artistic thing here. I'm not doing exactly what I see. I'm creating a few extra little layers in his cheeks. And I want to add in some blue, because where the hair is it's quite grey rather than brown. I mean, I like a brown hair, so I've made mine more brown, as you can see. But the tones and the textures and the movements there. Do remember when I paint hairs, I tend to just sort of go off and do my own thing. But hopefully you'll be able to pick up sort of the technique that I'm using and get some inspiration, and then you can find what works for you. Right, so here I'm now going in with a much richer, this is burnt sienna, and because I've got raw umber and burnt sienna, and I've got a bit of yellow ochre going on, the darkest tones will be sepia, and I won't do them yet, but I'm just building up these layers. And by doing it while it's all nice and sort of soft and just gently drying, I can mix little colours together and blend them if I want to. If I just want to get a nice sort of gradual colour mixing in there. But note that in order to create those layers, I've had to kind of leave like a little bit of space in between, and it starts to look like there's depth to the fluff. It takes a little bit of practice, but I'm sure you're going to be able to do it. You can always stop, rewatch this video a few times. If you're nervous about doing fur, just practice it on a separate piece of paper before you commit to the main picture. Just practice your brush strokes until you feel like you've got the feel of it and you've got the amount of paint. Now here I'm just using a very damp, clean brush, and I'm smooshing. I don't know what the technical term for this is. It's some sort of blending, but I like to call it smooshing, because I'm just softening all my edges. You have to be so careful when you do this, because you can do too much and then you lose all those lovely brush strokes. It's just where I just want even softer edges, and then I will let it dry, and then I might go over the top of that. But I'm just smooshing and getting that nice soft look to my hair, because I don't want a hard look. I want him to look all soft. But then I like the contrast that I'll achieve later when I add those last little defining little moments. And I think because I do the smooshing layer, that's what makes the last layer come to life. So make sure you've got your soft edges that you want around the eye before you then move on to those more detailed areas. Now I'm just going in, here I go with a much darker, this is probably sepia on my brush now. You have to kind of commit, because once these marks go on, they're not going to come off again. And I'm just quickly, my eyes will be flicking backwards and forwards to the actual reference picture, because I can see that there's little dark areas to the left and right of his nose going upwards, and he's almost like got a lighter strip going up the middle. And this is the little bit that I'm doing. Those tiny, tiny little marks are creating his character right now. Again, I like to do it quite quickly because I get a randomness, and I just have to sort of take a breath and go for it. That's how I like to do it. Other people might like to work really, really slowly, and that is absolutely fine. Just do whatever feels more comfortable for you. So just take some time here to dab away, soften any areas that you want to sort of smoosh and soften. And you can come in again and darken them. It's just taking your time, and we are patiently building layers here.